Kenyans will have to wait a little longer to access several land transaction services online despite digitization of land records. Lands Cabinet Secretary Farida Karonei says there are changes to land management regulations needed to enable the rollout of the process. This comes on a day the Law Society of Kenya threatened to sue the Lands Ministry for allegedly implementing the automation process in contravention of the law. Sam Gituku tells us more.
In its notice earlier in the week, the Lands Ministry announced going live of the Lands Information Management System, paving way for online handling of several land transactions, including transfer of ownership, issuance of consent, valuation requests and registration of land documents. But that notice has been the cause for worry for the Law Society of Kenya, who hold that all land transactions must be attended to by lawyers to guarantee the integrity of the processes. In a letter to the Lands Cabinet Secretary, LSK President Alan Gishohi complained of the apparent exclusion of lawyers from the processes, saying by law it's only advocates who can prepare conveyancing instruments and that certain land transfer processes and processing of consents requires physical presence of those involved.
The lawyer will still fill the transfer form.
CS Farida Karonei now clarifying that services to be accessed online are limited until changes to the regulations are made.
So we said, let's start with the services that are easy and fairly straightforward. That's why we chose search, because as I said last week, the most sought after service here in the Ministry of Lands is search. People want to search to see who owns this land. The other service is valuation, an application for valuation. It's a fairly straightforward thing. The other service is payment of land rent. You don't need to come physically here to pay. You can pay online.
Earlier in the day, Karonei met Gishohi and a team from LSK, agreeing to form a joint committee to agree on guidelines that will give effect to procedural online transaction documents for lands. LSK CEO Mercy Wambua admitting that a joint committee was constituted to chart the way forward. Part of the issues to be addressed include how to effect digital signatures on land documents, effect online duty stamping, since regulations as they are now disallow online stamping of title deeds.
One of the other laws the lawyers are referring to is the Stamp Duty Act, which says you have to stamp and emboss the seal on the document. That hasn't changed. So what we are doing now, once we get to that stage, we actually get back the document and stamp it, because that is what the law says. But in future, we will have to amend the law to provide for electronic signatures, because they are accepted the world over.
And that will require passage of regulations on land management currently in Parliament and gazettement of guidelines by the Ministry, a process that Karonei says should be concluded in 3 months' time. For now, all land consents between spouses, county land and transfer of agricultural land consents will have to be processed manually until an online framework is established.
So the only consent now available online is a consent by our officers at the Ministry of Lands. But all those other levels of consent are still to be executed in the manner in which they've been executed previously.
While fully digital processing of land transactions may be desirable, it's obviously going to take a little longer to allow for regularization of principles and laws governing the process. For now, Kenyans may continue to enjoy the limited edition of online land processing at the Nairobi and Central Registries. Sam Gituku, Citizen TV, Nairobi.